So going back to the priority of need, we've spoken about safety being at the bottom here. It's very, very important. That underpins the child's happiness at school. And then we've spoken about security and about the importance of connection. Now up here we've got tailored individual support. Because the child feels safe and because they feel secure, they're more likely then to actually be accepting of this individual support. Now the norm for adults is to feel that these children are very needy and they go straight in to offer individual tailored support. But actually sometimes these children don't feel safe enough to be accepting of any specialist support which would single them out as different. So it's very, very important that we get that bedrock right of safety and security before we go in here. Then with this, it's very important that we actually ask the child themselves what they think they need. Because that actually promotes their security yet further. If they actually think, I need some more learning assistance. Very often children with mental health difficulty have concentration problems, they ruminate about problems, exam stress, etc., etc. They worry that they can't focus their attention any period of time. So actually they appreciate bite-sized revision, for instance, or they appreciate just being able to talk to a teacher and just speak about their problems. They might actually talk about exam adjustment or anything like that. It's very important to not forget that these children have special learning needs as well as pastoral needs. So it's very important also to ask the child what they would feel comfortable with at school. Some children might want counselling, for instance. Other children, might just prefer just to have discreet private support from one named teacher, whereby if they experience any problems at school, then they can go and approach this one named teacher. So it's very important to ask them what they feel would be helpful. Then, once you've got all that in place, what these children I found was that they actually wanted to cope, and this is right at the top of your pyramid, they wanted to cope autonomously, independently, and they wanted to be as resilient as possible. They want to actually just get on with their learning and be able to cope and be happy at school. So when they've got safety, security, they've got that tailored support, that little bit of tailored support they require and want, they can cope resiliently. But you can support them with that resilience as well, because we have to remember that sometimes resilience can waver, especially if they've got problems outside school. So we need to give them more strategies which might help them cope resiliently. So we can introduce perhaps some breathing techniques if they get very anxious, or we can perhaps introduce some relaxation methods or some quiet time, some time out time, that type of thing. But also a lot of children have their own coping methods. What was interesting from my study is that some children like to set small goals, some children like to treat themselves. So it's very important also not to stifle their own positive coping strategies. Hopefully, if they've got some negative coping strategies, you as a supporting adult can start to introduce other types of strategies that they can experiment with, which will allow them to independently cope. Perhaps give them some space, a time out or whatever, or the support of somebody else. So those were my findings. So I'm hoping that you might be able to think about my findings and how you could introduce them in your own work settings. Because most importantly, school promotes resilience, and if we know that well-being and mental health, positive mental health, is in synergy with learning. So the better the child is at school, the happier they are at school, then very often that can promote their mental health. And even though there might be lots of difficulties outside school, school becomes a safe place. But unfortunately sometimes school can also feel unsafe as well, so it's very important we make it that safe place.